Time Maxwell from EMI. We're going to be going over how to do the laser calibration routine. Sometimes when this laser gets out of alignment or if the torch gets bumped, it's required to do realignment of the lasers of the cutting head and the lasers of the marking head. So we're going to go through that routine real quick here. What you're going to need is, this is the calibration block. This comes with the machine. It could be located in your cabinet or on one of the arms of your monitor station. This is a special piece of aluminum channel we use internally, but you can just get a standard piece of 8-inch C channel. Make sure it's relatively flat. It doesn't have a crown in the top of the C channel. And then you'll need a piece of paper and also a pointed tip for your 45 amp torch. This is just a standard cutting nozzle. Fits into the calibration block a little bit better for alignment than the fine cut tip. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to load the program over the controller. So we're going to go ahead and hit cycle start here, and it's going to come down. It'll come up with messages that say loosen the front rollers. This is so the W can adjust if you're to whatever size channel you have in. I already have it set up so it's not going to adjust the W, but normally it would center the W axis on your piece of material. So I'm going to hit cycle start, and it'll pop up with another message that's tighten your centering rollers. So we're going to hit cycle start one last time here, and then it's going to come and it's going to take a point, and it's going to correct the head angle ever so slightly to make sure that the head is parallel to your piece of material. I'm just going to set this back here. It now has a message on the screen that says put main cutting head in calibration block. So this calibration block we're just going to let float. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jog our axes here. So we'll lift the Z up a little bit, bring the X down, and we're going to bring our cutting head. And make sure before you do this that your breakaway is, both breakaways are clean, that there's no debris underneath of them. So you can pull them off and blow them off with a blowgun. Make sure your consumable is fully installed, and that the breakaway is seated properly before you do this. Because everything is going to essentially get recalibrated, so you want it to be in the best possible position and orientation possible while you're doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the cutting head down here. And you can float the calibration block around. We're not going to turn the magnet on yet until we have it aligned. We're going to bring it down. And you can utilize the feed rate knob to slow the feed rate down. You can also use turtle mode that will help you be a little bit more accurate. So as we get closer here, we continue to bring it down until there's just a little bit of space. Once there's only a little bit of space, you can put it on incremental X1. That will move it 1/1000th of an inch every time you hit the button, regardless of where the feed rate knob is. We're going to go ahead and increment it down. So you can see right now you can just float the calibration tool very lightly. You don't want to influence the torch, so you just want to very lightly rotate it around. And you're going to increment it down until you just feel it touching. So once you just start to feel friction, you can go one more and it'll kind of stop it then. We're going to go ahead and turn the magnet on. Try to be light and not altering the position of the torch. After the magnet is on, we're going to go ahead and hit cycle start here. You'll see it'll pick up and move back. There's now a message on the screen that tells you to bring the main cutting torch down on top of the block and touch it off with a piece of paper. So we're going to go ahead and grab this piece of paper. You can take it back off incremental. We'll slowly jog it down until we're just a little bit off. When you're going through this calibration routine, you want to make sure that you don't hit tool check, you don't hit cycle cancel, and you don't break away any of the torches. If any of those things happen, you'll have to repeat the entire cycle. So don't run the torch into the material. Put it back on incremental. Then we put a piece of paper under here. We'll just keep incrementing it down until we just feel a little bit of friction on the paper. If it pins it down, go back up to remove the piece of paper so you're not moving the calibration block. We're now going to go ahead and hit cycle start. see here, it's sitting at the back. That's zeroing the laser 1 inch in front of the torch. And then it will start probing the bore here. This is what sets the nominal diameter of the actual laser beam. And then you'll see pop up on the screen, it'll say a number, usually close to 3/4 of an inch. As long as it's within plus or minus 0.003 of 3/4 of an inch, that's close enough for calibrating the laser, but more or less that'll tell you that it's repeating size of this calibration block. So this is a 3/4 inch diameter hole. So we'll go ahead and hit cycle start. It will then, the marking torch will then go down. Some machine models, the marking torch will come down and retract. You can just manually put it back down. We're going to go ahead and swap this nozzle out for the pointing one, just so we can more accurately get the tip down in there for alignment. So the message on the screen now is position marking torch into calibration block. You do not have to leave the magnet on. We're going to float it in just like previously. So we're going to go ahead and bring, you want to do it about in the same vicinity of the channel. That way if there's any bows or different distortions in the channel, it's still about in the same spot. So we're going to go ahead and bring this down. Move the X or Y a little bit. And the marking torch here is on an air cylinder, so some force will push the air cylinder back up. It doesn't apply as much friction to the block, so just be careful that you're not continuing to compress the air cylinder. But you will feel the resistance increase. Then we turn the magnet on here. We'll go ahead and hit cycle start. And you see the marking head went back up, we put it back down. Now it's prompting us to bring it down on top of the calibration block and touch it off with a piece of paper here. Before I do that, I'm going to switch it back to the actual marking consumable because we want the cap height to be the same. You can see the cap height on these is different, so we want to make sure that we definitely have our marking consumable in, marking cap when we set the Z height. Go ahead and bring that down incrementally on X1 until it just touches. Okay. And then we'll hit cycle start. And then it'll probe that location to find the offset between the marking torch and the laser. So the calibration routine is all done. The last part of it is there's a calibration test burn. We're going to go ahead and bring the marking torch down directly on top of the piece of material. You can actually bring it down until it touches. And you want to make sure it's at least away from the edges by like 1.5 inches. And then we'll go ahead and hit cycle start. And it's going to lift the torch up, pierce a hole, and then it's going to mark an X over top of that hole. And that allows you to check the alignment of the pierce mark to that X to make sure that they're in line. I would say a lot of times it's within a 30-second, but depending on how accurate you need your marking, plus or minus a 16th can be acceptable. Sometimes the pierce will have a little bit of diverging on the mark itself. And that's how you run through the calibration routine.